Hello. Hello. I think I am live, but somebody message on the side to let me know if I am, because otherwise I'm just talking to myself. I don't usually do live streams. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andrew Gold. I used to be a BBC journalist or whatever. I made an audio podcast called On the Edge with Andrew Gold. It's one of the top indie podcasts in the UK. I'm very proud of it. And I've started working on the YouTube page, getting the videos on and all that. So I used to do stuff. I was known for like exposing an exorcist. Oh, good, you can hear me. Exposing an exorcist for a BBC documentary. He was abusing the people he was exorcising. So that's the kind of thing that I was doing. It was like, I don't know if you know Louis Theroux in the UK. You'll know Louis, or Thoreau, they call him in the US. Thanks, Jonas Sharon. €10. That's very nice of you. Nobody's ever done that for me before. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have a lot of you guys here. Oh yeah, what I was saying, I was finishing my story. Basically, the thing was when I was making all this stuff for the TV channels, they didn't let me talk to who I wanted, when I wanted, all that kind of stuff. And now I get to talk to whoever I want, which is great. But the problem is when it's a controversial guest or a guest with whom some of my viewers disagree, they sometimes might think that I'm espousing those views. So firstly, I want to thank you, the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, for coming here and watching this and for being here. I know, or at least feel like I know what this means to you all. When I first interviewed Lloyd over a year ago, many of you came to my channel, and some of you have been here ever since. And I won't name names because it's a sensitive issue. I think you guys know who you are. There's a good 5 or 6 of you who we always talk on Twitter and on YouTube, and I can't tell you how supportive that's been, because the YouTube has been very slow to grow to begin with, and it's been really, really something. And I just won't say your names because I know just with ex-Jehovah's and that kind of thing, I gather that it's a very sensitive thing, doxing and that kind of thing. But, I know who you are and you know who you are. You've brightened the dark, slow days. You've made me laugh on the good days, and you've made me feel supported. So I hope it's mutual, and I welcome a lot of the new XJWs. I've said before, I'm an XJEW myself. I grew up going to synagogue and stuff like that. I'll get onto that in a second. But today, obviously, there was this episode, right? And I got a lot of flack on Twitter about it. And I walked into something, I think, with my eyes closed a little bit. It was a really hard one. I've now done 108 or 109 episodes or something, and I've done them with, I've done an episode with a pedophile. I've done an episode with a psychopath, and another with a murderer who killed his wife. I've had, some really quite devious and malicious and strange people on this channel, and I've never really had much pushback. So you can imagine my surprise today when I thought, oh God, it's that Lloyd Evans guy from the JW community who I'd kept up with, obviously because of all the JWs who follow my channel. So I'd always kept an eye out, but didn't get into the whole thing really. He suggested coming on, and I said, yeah, that would be great. And I had him on, and it was just another episode. We did it a few weeks ago. My girlfriend edits the podcast now, so I don't even listen to them back. I do it, gave it to her, forgot about it. Today it was like, oh yeah, that's today, isn't it? All over Twitter. It blew up. And I was just trying to say to people, I didn't mean this. And they're going, you're underprepared. I'm going, I know I'm underprepared. I didn't mean to be. Yeah, but you shouldn't stick your neck in these things. I'm like, well, I know, but then what shall I do? Because I'd speak to different people every couple of days. And if I always had to be all knowing, then I'd never be able to interview anyone. Anyway. So I'm getting over a cough as well. I had the bloody virus that everyone's getting. So anyway, what was I going to say? I've got a little speech here, but I've gone completely off of whatever. Look, the thing is, I realize how sensitive an issue this is for you guys. So I really, really don't want you guys thinking I'm just being all like, oh, whatever about it. Many of you were years ago or recently sometimes ripped away from your families in pursuit of truth. At your most vulnerable, as you acclimatized to the outside world, you found community in Lloyd's channel. You forged friendships and found true value and meaning in that community. In the last few months, that trust, that value, that community has been demolished in the most shocking and unexpected of ways. Well, at least from the outside, it seems that way. And you've been left there naked and exposed and unsure. And it's only right that many of you have been distrustful of me, a journalist interviewing Lloyd. I can't imagine how hurt you've been by this, and I have some understanding of what it's like to grow up in a crazy religion. Mine was just like the JWs, as I said, but with that E in between. I grew up learning Hebrew, all that stuff every Sunday. I was really pleased to see in the chat somebody was saying, God, there's so many new names today. I wish I could remember, but they were saying that you'd see a mezuzah when you were doing the JW stuff, which is the little scrolls that you put on the side of a door for Jewish people. And I thought that would put you off, but it becomes a talking point when you knock on doors. I find that really interesting. But yeah, I'd be split from my school friends on Sunday, and I had to go out and read this nonsense about Jonah and the whale. Blessed art thou, but in Hebrew. It's nothing like what many of you went through, and I'm fortunate that my family were relatively secular. But it is something I had to tear myself away from. So yeah, I wanted to, get to grips with this, and I did just speak to Lloyd on Twitter, and I told him, because this is the thing, I'm a journalist, right? I'm not used to YouTube. I'm supposed to be impartial. I grew up on that BBC stuff, and to be honest, I know it's not very YouTubey, but I love it. I love being the guy who can be in the middle and go, well, that allegation's not founded, so we don't know about that. Let's be very careful and all that kind of thing. So I didn't want to just have Kim on, and give her what Lloyd said was the last word, because that's not fair. Apologies. I thought it's not fair. But the more that everybody in the comments started saying, well, why not? Why not? And I thought, well, I'm an investigative journalist. I can't just not speak to someone because Lloyd was a friend of mine. And I say was because he says he's going to have to add me to the list of people he sues if I do this with Kim, and particularly if she lies. And that's a red flag to a bull, because you know what journalists are like, right? You don't get into this business unless somebody says to you, I'm going to sue you if you pursue that story. You're like, I'm doing that story, because that's why you get into this in the first place. And the other thing is, he was going to withdraw my Patreon that he pays me a couple quid a month. He's been doing it for years, which is very nice of him. And that's the thing we have to keep in mind. That's nice of him. That's a good side. And again, I'm like, well, I can handle it was very nice that you did it, but I can handle not having that £2 a month. I can handle being sued, because I don't think I'm going to do anything wrong here. It's always a bit scary though, and I am quite a paranoid person. Anyway, listen, I've left Kim just sitting here in the thing while I bang on, so it's time to, how do I take this down and get Kim in here? Hi Kim, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I am good, thanks. I'm a bit ruffled and a bit scared and a bit all over the place today from I've been sort of shouted at and on all sides, and Lloyd as well. But thanks for joining in the morning. What time is it there?
Just come 7:15.
Mm-hmm.
In the morning.
Okay, that's not that. I mean, I don't get up before like midday. That's mad for me. But fair enough. Oh God, right, I'm going to let you talk in a sec because I keep coughing. Tell me, did you get a chance to watch a bit of that or any of that?
Yes, I did watch most of it. Yeah.
Okay, and we're gonna be careful. Kim and I have spoken about, and Kim's always said to me when I've spoken to her that we don't need to be unnecessarily mean or nasty. It's just let's get the facts out there and that kind of thing, and especially nothing that is untrue or that we shouldn't, especially because he's threatening to sue. So we should be careful. But with that in mind, Kim, what are your thoughts on that video?
Well, look, I feel there's a lot of things that I feel that he has said that have been misconstrued, diverted from, that are not true. I really wish that he'd been able to expand a little bit more about where I have been defamatory towards him. And the lies and that I've told, and this is not correct. And to this day, he's never actually given me one example of a situation that I've lied about or that hasn't been true. So, excuse me, I sort of sat there and thought, you've had your chance, you've come on, you wanted to talk about it. What is it that you have to say? And it's he's doubling down on his position that, he just blankly refuses to acknowledge the issue with trafficking, and not that he has committed trafficking. Let me be very clear. I will be very clear. My issue has always been the fact that you cannot be an advocate for child sexual assault victims and participate in activities with sex workers, in my opinion. I put it out there. I never, ever once said, he can't do this, everyone has to stop following him. I've always said, here's the information, you make an informed decision about what you believe is correct and whether or not you want to support him. Be a subscriber, be a patron, work with him, collaborate with him. I don't care. But here's the information and make a decision for yourself. Lloyd fails to understand that that is not me trying to cancel him, or me trying to create a bullying situation, or me trying to do anything other than inform the community, just as he does in respect of the Jehovah's Witness organization and the atrocities that go on in that organization. And look, I could sit and talk for weeks about that, but the point is that he cannot acknowledge that there is a potential conflict of interest. It is a disclosure on a it's an interest disclosure, a public interest disclosure. People have the right to know what he is doing and what he and just for the record, that's not in dispute. He has never disputed the facts of what I had said. And I've always encouraged the community, and I've actually defended him. I was a little bit irritated. He said something about me creating a situation. I thought, hang on a minute. When people have said things that are incorrect about him, I have, where I've seen it, excuse me, where I have seen as well. Where I've seen it, I've corrected it. I've said, no, that's not correct. That's not fair. That's not what happened. So for him to just come straight out and say that I created the whole thing, I find that that's just not correct. It's just not.
I think he suggested that you've bullied him, and there's been, and I want to get everything right because I'm very concerned now, but I think he was suggesting that you might have been bullying his family. Have you been in touch with the rest of his family at all? Or maybe he didn't say that. I'm being very careful. I'm trying to remember all of my...
If that's well, it doesn't matter whether he said it or not. I'll answer your question. Your question was, have I been in contact? No, I haven't.
Okay. So it's just the stuff you've been saying about, well, look, I mean, so far what you've said sounds reasonable. I mean, I don't know. Was it frustrating to watch that video just now? Because, I mean, I'm very bad at confronting. I do find that hard. And that's also why I was worried about talking to you, because it's almost like to him, I'm like, and now I'm talking behind his back. Do you know what I mean? But I just found it very hard. I was trying to push him towards the fact that I do understand why so many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are so up in arms right now. Because of the very thing he advocated for. At the end of the day, look, people employ sex workers. That's why sex workers are around. I've never done it. Right, but although I mean, everyone would say that, wouldn't they? But I've never done that. I've not been interested in that. I haven't ever. I don't think I've cheated on anyone. But I hate moralizing. I tried to cheat on someone? I tried to cheat on someone because I thought she was cheating on me. That doesn't matter. That's all in the past. And it didn't work. I couldn't even find anyone to cheat with. But that's all irrelevant. God, yeah. Well, I lost my train of thought.
No, that's okay. I'll pick it up. This whole issue is not about infidelity. If it had just simply been, I've had an affair, blah, 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 whatever, then nobody would have ever known about it. And I've said that 1,000 times. I've said it at least 1,000 times. This is not about infidelity. This is not about judgment of somebody who, I'm distracted.
By Sean. I knew you would be. Sorry, I know we're talking about serious things, but I had to put that up because I know that Kim's a fan, and Sean came in to say hello.
Mate. His work interests the shit out of me. Keep going.
Yeah.
Well,
if Sean's if he can message me, he's welcome to come and join if he wants. But I don't know how much he knows.
Please.
Yeah. No, but I don't know how much he's been following. I don't know how much he's been following all this. But Sean, you're welcome to send me a little message if you fancy coming on. But yes. No, this is the thing. It's not. You were saying it's not about sex workers.
It's not about, it's not about my judgment or an individual's judgment, or I'm not asking anybody to judge a person for utilizing the facilities of sex worker. That is not what I'm saying, and that's never been what I've said. I have said the same thing a million times, and that's where I get a bit frustrated when I speak. And please don't think I'm frustrated with you, but Lloyd is an advocate for child sexual abuse. He, he's a core participant in the EXA inquiry. He's been on many different media, had many different media opportunities. There's been a whole heap of things that he's been able to do in that role, and he cannot sidestep that. I saw a little bit of sidestepping. I'm not a leader. I'm not this. I'm like, come on, you cannot come back and sidestep at this point. You just can't. And I just really am frustrated with him that he fails to understand the relationship between his work and and the statistics relating. So simply say, oh, I didn't sleep with an underage sex worker, or I didn't. How do you know? And I'm not saying you did, but what I'm saying is the optics are really bad. And that the chances, if you look at the statistics around sex workers and, sex workers that were child sexual assault victims, that were child trafficked, that are in slavery situations where they have to continue working to pay off debts for their families, or their families are in fear of, I know of cases personally of things like that have happened. So, to just not be able to acknowledge, just to simply say black and white, I didn't sleep with anyone under the age of 18 or engage in services of anyone under the age of 18. To me, that just shows a complete lack of understanding of the issues relating to child sexual assault victims and women that are trafficked, men that have been trafficked, boys, girls. I just find it really, it's tone deaf, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so.
And I just don't think I don't think he is that tone deaf. I think, in my opinion, I feel he's doing it because he knows, but he cannot acknowledge it because the consequences of acknowledging that would be serious.
I think what's turned me as well is, like, we all know about these sort of allegations, and they're very blurry and difficult because of all the reasons you're saying. That's what makes this such a complicated issue. But I get the impression that if many other people did this, maybe they would have apologized right away, and maybe they'd have gotten on with it. And what I'm seeing here, and I think the thing that changed my mind about having you on to speak now, the whole day, and Lloyd was telling me these are just a minority, it's just a minority of people, just a minority. I saw maybe one person defending him and hundreds all having a go, which said to me, this felt like, and it felt like what I said to him in the video, which is that it's very hard for any YouTuber to not become some sort of cult leader, to not, become abusive at some point. And he got a lot of you guys straight after they left the JWs, or the Jehovah's Witnesses, very vulnerable. And it feels like the entire ex-JW community has taken a breath and gone, and sort of gone, and all at the same time, because it's not just about the allegations, is it? Most of what I'm hearing people saying isn't that. It's about, he bullied me when this happened, he kicked me off when that happened, he doxed me, he did that. That's what made me go, I can't anymore just keep saying, sorry mate, you're my mate, I'm not going to talk about this. So how long was that going on, and were people speaking about that for some time as well?
Yeah, look, the issue and the allegations in relation to bullying and what they define as bullying behavior has been going on for at least 9 years. That I could give you an example of something that I know happened 9 years ago, and the person's perspective. I think the thing is that when you come out of the organization, you're not aware of all of how big the community is, or where the community hang out. I only I've been out 4 years, and I literally found out about the JWN forum, which has been going for, I can't even tell you, more than 10 years anyway. And so I didn't know about that. So initially the whole community was over there and they were all talking, and Lloyd was part of that community amongst many other people. And some of the stuff that I've now read of things that happened over there, I'm like, that didn't happen. And then I go through and I looked it up, and it did happen. And so sort of that's sort of become irrelevant information and unknown. But I know of specific individuals all the way along throughout the last 10 years. And I started researching before I made the disclosure, because I wanted to really consider what, what was the point of it? What was it? Was it really that big a deal? Was it necessary? What is it a public interest or just interesting to the public? And I didn't want to. I was very careful about whether or not I was just interesting to the public. But I really came to notice a pattern of behaviour where someone would be with Lloyd and very supportive, and then they would have a difference of opinion and he would just annihilate them. And this happened. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they'd mind. Louise Good, Kim and Mikey, Mark and Cora, the Vast Apostate Army, Awa. I've probably done misjustice. I'm sure that there's many, many, many others, and I do apologize if I've missed. I know I have missed people, but the point is there that things have happened, and I'm not saying that all of their behavior is 100%. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is there's a common denominator with if someone doesn't agree with Lloyd, they then become and if you look at the live stream that he did with after I made my statement towards the end of the I hadn't seen it until maybe 3 weeks ago or so, and I looked at his language, and he talks very specifically about language, and I find that really interesting because he weaponized. He is the majority. He has the majority of supporters. Nobody would dispute that fact, and he weaponized them. And the amount of people that came for me, and the things that they said, it was ridiculous. And he was watching that. He knew that was happening. I didn't once see him say, "Hey, that's not okay. Stop," never once.
This majority, I mean, today, it seems like has it swung the other way?
Now, I don't know, maybe, but this was back right at the beginning,
Sure.
2 days into it. I think a lot of people have had the time to disengage their emotional brain, and they've started to go into logical brain, because emotionally, people are very attached to Lloyd. I was very attached to Lloyd. And so, of course, we go into emotional brain. We've had a lot of loss as a community. We lose our friends, our family when we leave. And to lose something is very hard for us. And so I think they were in emotional brain. But I think as time's gone on, they've gone, "Oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, let me think about that. No, that is a problem." So I think that the pendulum has moved.
I think so. I'm really interested. The reason I'm interested in that part more than the allegations, obviously, the allegations are, he said, she said. It does seem like there's something there, and there's a lot, But this feels bigger. This feels, to me, as a journalist, I'm looking in and I'm going, this is years of it. I've been really interested in cults. I do a lot of that on this channel, and I've got someone coming on called Amanda Montel, and she talks about the language of cults, and you and I spoke the other day, didn't we, about certain things that both YouTubers and cult leaders have in common, and one of them would be like certain words, sacred words that one says, and so what kind of examples of that, which helped bring that community and make a community around him? What kind of things would he say?
Well, there were. He used to make fun. That there's lots of saying young ones. I can't do it. He's saying young ones like one of the governing body members, and he has like nicknames, and because these 8 men. So there are 8 governing body members in the Jehovah's Witness organization, and those 8 men by the community are seen as ultimately responsible for all of the hurt and things that have happened to us as individuals, because of their policies, and that's correct. They are ultimately, in my opinion, they are ultimately responsible for that. But when he makes fun of them, and when he sort of pushes them, and he then says, "Oh, look, this is what I'm doing. It's an us and them thing. So you're with me and we're against them," which is fine. He can do that. But I think that there's a line between where you push somebody, like you create that. It's not like, here's information, go and have a think about it and decide what you'd like to do or what you think is the right thing, or that kind of thing. It's he's creating that, us and them scenario. So you're with me, and you're against them. And he does reference it quite a lot in his language. Even in the interview he did today, he'll say, "I haven't done anything that's anywhere near as bad as them." And then everybody thinks about what them have done to us as individuals, and we go, "Oh yeah, they're horrible. Oh, poor Lloyd." And we, immediately we go in and side with Lloyd. But that's what the organization does. The organization will say, You can't talk to your person, even if they're not disfellowshipped. If they're inactive and they're not on Jehovah's side, then you can't be friends with them, and you can't talk to them, and you can't go and have dinner with them, and all of those things that normal people do. And so that's the classic example for me of creating that us and them situation, and that creates the loyalty. I also think that we're so, as Jehovah's Witnesses, we were all so used to hearing doctrine and things being read and watching JW broadcasting. And if you look at Lloyd's channel and follow his work quite closely, which obviously I did, and I know quite a lot about it, some of the language, one of the biggest tells that Lloyd has, and he hopefully stops it because I've told him before, is, isn't that right? Isn't that right? And if you follow what the Jehovah's Witness elders, the governing body, Stephen Lett, classic example for it, and there's another one, I just can't think of his name in a second, but they'll go, isn't that right, brothers and sisters? And then I hear Lloyd, isn't that right? And so there's language, and I'm not saying that Lloyd's doing it consciously. I don't know. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that has happened, and that mentality and culture is very obvious to me.
Yeah. Well, look, you don't just build a YouTube community of 100,000 or more people around you, particularly when it's all based around people who've just left a cult, without having to resort to some cult-like aspects, I think. And that's what I said. I said that to him in the video as well. There's, as you say, non-believers. You're pointing out all the non-believers. These are the people who are non-believers. And look, today I have started to feel a little scared of him. I can see how he might be intimidating. I'm not used to, despite the job I've got, I'm not used to confrontation. I don't handle it well. I sort of go a bit quiet and go, oh God. So every time he said to me, no, don't talk to Kim, I was just like, okay, I guess I shouldn't, and even now I can see I've got messages from him on Twitter, and I'm scared to look at it. And I see there's a parody of him in the chat. So every time I see that face pop up, my heart's going up. And I can just wonder, being in that when he is, and this is the thing, what people outside of the JWs and what I've been looking into with cults and things like that, that's often everything they have. So it's so hard to leave, isn't it? I mean, so what's happening now with all you guys? You're left without a space on the internet, or is there, where do you go now?
Well, that's something that I really, really considered, and I've spoken a lot about this in the community. You're talking about fear, obligation, and guilt fog, as that's part of leaving any cult. Is you've got the fear, the obligation, and the guilt. You're probably feeling a little bit guilty because he's your mate. You're probably fearful because of the unknown, which technically you can't be fearing, but you don't know what's going to happen. And then did you feel like you had an obligation? And that is what happens. And what's happening to you right now in terms of, I'm almost a little bit scared of him. So many people, and probably half of them that are in the chat, have expressed over the years that, he will just destroy them, and they either emotionally run out of energy, he threatens legal action, and they don't understand that actually isn't necessarily a threat, but through lack of knowledge on their behalf, they see that as fear because they don't know. So they back down and run away, and then he succeeds in getting his point made. So I just, in terms of that, that's a really common thread that, like, I'm not actually surprised, and I doubt very, very many people watching your channel will be surprised about that. And because that's a really common thing that he does. And that's no different. Sorry.
I just want to thank Jane. I've never ever, I didn't even know that you could give the money thing on this live stream. And a few people are, but I have seen it on Lloyd's, but I thought you had to have some special thing. I've been doing these for a while. No one's ever given it anyway. So I would firstly say thank you very, very much. You really don't have to be doing that. But I appreciate the message, and it's a very, very generous thing as well, Jane. Thank you. But the message whether you cover his patronage, because that's a reference to, because Lloyd, he gave me, £2 or whatever it was. And it was a weird thing to say to me. I guess it was the last possible, I don't know, just like, well, if you do this, I'm going to have to withdraw from Patreon. And it's like, I'm not a millionaire, but the £2 a month, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
That's not. It's a strange. I felt it was a very strange thing to throw at me, and then it was the litigation, which was a bit.
Mhm.
That's a bit scarier.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll give you an example. There's a YouTuber. His name is Jake. Can't think of his surname. Worldly anyway. And he's a young guy, and he's just doing it like everybody else. It's therapeutic for him, and also he does good content. I have to give him props. I hadn't watched too many of his channel programs, but when I was still part of the JW Watch team and Lloyd was on leave, he had contacted Lloyd and said to Lloyd, "Oh, would you mind if I did the February JW broadcasting, the rebuttal, because obviously you're on leave? Would you mind if I did that?" And at the time, we were in the process of organising that when everything blew up. And I have spoken to him about it subsequently. And the impression that I got from my conversation with him was that there was fear on his, like he didn't want to step on Lloyd's toes. That he, and I thought to myself, that's a really bad place for a community to be in, that somebody feels like Lloyd owns, the content on JW Watch, and that he has, and that anybody that does anything that might upset him is going to become a problem. And he's not, I've spoken to him, and I've also spoken to other activists, and they've all been, there's a graveyard. I've said this 1,000 times. There's a graveyard of activists who used to do videos that have been bullied out, have been pushed out, have been sort of rubbished, and so they've just left and stopped. And so it's created a situation where there is really only one source to go to. So for my hope, and this is something I've been promoting quite heavily, is get on with it. Like, don't shy back. You've got something to say. You're valuable. People need to listen to lots of different opinions and make their own. They don't need to be told by an individual that don't listen to them because they're crazy or they're conspiracy theorists or they're, this or that or whatever, or they're wrong. Live and let live. Let people make their content. Let everybody have multiple different sources of information and then form your own opinion. It's no different to anything else. Journalism. A journalist will go here, form their opinion, and it's no different. And I think that also the other thing is that we need to get away from so much, rehashing the doctrinal stuff from the JW organization and start looking at, there's an activist who was old school OG and has now come back, and he's doing it. His name's Capitan. He's doing a series it's up to part 4 on exiting the cult and his experience, and he's reading his journals, and I'm fascinated. And all of those things would be missed. So I'm it's not about saying Lloyd's got to go and Lloyd's this, whatever happens, but he cannot control the narrative within the community. People need a variety of information. And I think that's probably what he's most unhappy about, in my opinion.
I would say to people in the questions, in the comments, if you want to ask us questions as well, we can do a bit of a Q&A for 20 minutes or so, half an hour, something like that. Thank you very much to I think you just want me to say your name, don't you, Stranglewank Hitman? That was £24 just to say your name. I've said it now, Stranglewank Hitman.
I'm sure.
Stranglewank should be on Sean's show, definitely. But yeah, thank you very much for that.
Sean should be on this show.
I've messaged him. You've lost your shyness. I think he's busy today, to be honest. But I did say, oh, here you go, get your top off, Andrew. See, I know that guy. But it's all kicking off in the comments. But well, this is the thing. I'm starting to wonder, right? What you've just said, what you've just hit on, and I'll wait for questions and stuff to come in while I just say this. But it is sort of rehashing, and it must be very difficult. I'm writing this book at the moment about the science behind secrets and why people keep secrets and stuff like that. And there's going to be one chapter about YouTubers and social media stars and stuff, because they often have, whereas other people try to hide their secrets, YouTube stars have to create their own often, because they're so desperate for any content. It's like more content. I'm very fortunate that on my show I can just keep interviewing other people. I don't have to come up with ideas. It's just like, oh, that person. So he's constantly having to think of new stuff. And after like 10 years, it's like, you left 10 years ago, mate. Let's move on. And I wonder if, and this is outside of Lloyd as well, I wonder how much being part of an X, and this is not really my place to say, so I'm interested in what you say to this, but being part of an XJW or X any religion YouTube thing is great while you're getting out, but I wonder if it starts to hold people back. And going back to what Amanda Montell, the cult writer, writes about cult languages and stuff like that, she said, I mean, she sees cults not just in like Jehovah's Witness or Hasidic Jews and stuff. She also talks about like fitness clubs can turn into cults and juice bars and businesses and multi-level marketing and all those kinds of things. And she says, the answer is not to not ever be part of like culty things and YouTube communities and things like that, but to be part of many of them so that none of them become everything to you, which is clearly what's happened to some people with Lloyd. Watch lots of YouTube channels and dive in and dive out, unsubscribe, subscribe. What do you think of that?
Oh, absolutely. And that I totally agree with. I think when you first come out of the organization, the content that Lloyd has available to the XJW community, and there's a whole catalog of things. I think that, yes, it's extremely important in validating the reason that you left and the things that are wrong with the organization. It's definitely a process that you need to go through, and that's like, psychologically proven. And so I think that, and I don't know, everyone's different, I suppose, whether it's 3 months, 3 weeks, a year, however long that is, for you to go through that process of feeling comfortable that, yes, I did the right thing in leaving. But then there's a process where you need to move on. And that's why I'm really enjoying Capitan's series at the moment.
Sounds fascinating.
200 likes. But he talks about the process, and he's done therapy, and he's journaled, and he's done all the things, and he's talking about how to move on and what happened, the challenges, and how he dealt with it. And and I think that is really, really important. And also, there's people that are doing great work in activism and lobbying governments and all of that sort of thing. And I think that picking their brain, not about what the outcome, but how they got there, so that people can be empowered with information and knowledge, so that they can find out how they did it and the challenges and the setbacks, so that they can then go and do the same thing. I think there's, there is room, but it needs to be balanced. And at the moment, in my opinion, it's just not.
Yeah, we've got a question from TK, who's a loyal viewer on The Edge with Andrew Gold. If Lloyd were more contrite about using sex workers, would that change your opinion of him?
Contrite.
What do you think? Like, if he was more apologetic?
Well, that wouldn't be for me. It would be for, I put the information out so people could make a decision. If he was then, if he was different, that would be up to everybody else. It would be up to every individual. I'm an individual. Everyone in the community is an individual. That would be up to them to make a decision on whether or not they accepted his apology. They thought it was fair enough. He's made a mistake. He's taken responsibility. It would be for them to make that decision. For me, my opinion, I don't. Okay, I accept. You acknowledge, take responsibility. Props to you. I think would take a really strong person to do that. But I still would not continue working with him. No.
I understand that. I've got another one from Capitan. I believe, is that the same Capitan you're talking about?
It is, actually, yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations on your apparently brilliant show, Capitan. What's your reaction to litigation stuff? The litigation stuff, it's that thing, as I say, it's like a red flag to a bull a little bit with a journalist. If once somebody does threaten you with litigation, it is just natural for any journalist to go like, right, I'm doing the story, because it makes you feel like there's something there. I think I would have reacted much better to Lloyd had he just said to me like, look, I'd rather you didn't do it. I'm feeling really sad and all this stuff, but I understand you're a journalist. You've got to do what you've got to do. That might have pulled me back. That might have made me go, oh. As soon as he said, right, I might have to take your £2 away, and I'm going to have get litigation involved, But the thing is, I'm talking all brave now, and then I'll go to bed and I'll just lie there going, oh my god, I'm going to get ruined.
But can I just speak to that for a little moment? Because just so you know, I don't think you'll care. Capitan is actually one of the 12, now 13. Welcome to his club.
This is a club.
And Capitan is actually probably the most balanced person in terms of fairness that I've ever actually seen. he will call bullshit when it's called, excuse me, swearing, but he will call it when it's called.
Yeah.
And I don't know Cappy at all, basically. Like, I've only ever seen him in the community, so we're not friends. I mean, I like to think he's my friend, but I don't know.
Well, that's friends. I believe you're friends.
We've never personally spoken or anything, but other than I did an interview with him back some time. But you know, the thing about the litigation, and this is the language that Lloyd used in his interview, was very interesting, where he's saying, you know, this has happened to me. Kim Silvio said this. Glad he didn't add the retired lawyer bit because that gets boring. And now I'm suing her for defamation. So people that don't have knowledge of the facts of the matter, of the situation, of the law, and how the law operates, and the intricacies of the law, given that it's all over the world, there's a lot of legal stuff going on to that. All they hear is, she said this, he sued her, and she's going to be in trouble. That's the potential, you know, that's a choice. And then, or people then go, oh my God, I'm going to get sued like you are. And it's like, well, hang on, step back for a minute. What are you going to be sued for? What have you done? Go back and think. Don't just go to the panic side of it. Go back and think about it logically. What have I done wrong? And, you know, in regards to litigation, because I know that if I don't say it, there'll be people that will stalk me on Facebook. Lloyd sent letters out. I contacted. I know Mark Latham and Cora have contacted. I know Joel, can't say his surname at the moment, can't think. There's so many people that have actually tried to phone the firm to talk to them. I actually did manage to speak to one, and he referred me through to a junior lawyer, and then I rang the office and they never returned the call. I've written letters, I've sent emails, and nothing. There's not been any response. So
Yeah, that's
it's
the
all
next
very
question,
good
isn't
well.
it? For
It's very
Mike
good well to
Edwards,
put that bravado on of, I'm suing them because they've done the wrong thing by me. And it's like, well, are you actually suing, or did your lawyer send a letter?
Yeah. Yeah, well, the letters, that's the next question for Mike Edwards, because I've seen the letters as well.
My view on Lloyd's letters. I think it's absolutely, I think it's irresponsible on behalf of Lloyd's lawyer to send out something like that, and I think it's just unprofessional that they haven't responded. You know, it'd be Lloyd talks about mental health, but there are a lot of people in the XJW community that struggle with mental health issues. And what if one of them received that letter and didn't have the resources to be able to go, oh, I can go and speak to Kim, or I can speak to this person or my friend, or I have enough money to go and speak to a lawyer to get the facts on the matter. What happens if they receive that letter and absolutely do themselves an injury, and either pay the money or don't, or they're allegations of criminal offences. It's not just a claim of defamation. There are claims that you have committed a criminal offence, and people think, oh shit, I'm going to jail. It's irresponsible, and I think that Lloyd hasn't considered that. There's no allegations. It's just, you've committed an offence, give me money. Well, be a little bit more professional than that.
Yeah, and it is scary. I had it before. That exorcist I talked about, who I exposed on BBC documentary, he did it, but we did have, because I was with the BBC, we had a team of lawyers behind us, so I was never worried. Any lawsuit would go to them probably over me. Plus, I had and still have no money, so it's all right. Sue me all you want, but it was scary. He's another cult leader. I feel like I've only been threatened by those kinds of people, and he sent like an all capital letters in Spanish thing saying, you put this out, you will see my lawyers, and it's like, come on mate, that's not going to happen. He walks around in a purple frock, but Scarface, I was just going to quickly say Scarface 3-1, because he missed the actual interview. Has Lloyd now threatened Andrew with litigation too? Yeah. He has done, and he's written more stuff on Twitter after that, and I've just come on here and I haven't looked at what he wrote because I'm too scared to look at it, and I might just block him and not look at what it says.
That's really sad. That to me, that in itself tells me that all of what the XJW community and what I have been saying is true. So long as you toe the line and go along with the narrative and hail Lloyd and all of those sorts of things, you're fine. The moment you do something that he doesn't agree with, I've always said, those who have nothing to hide, hide nothing. I would be happy if Lloyd came on here and he and I had a conversation publicly. I've got nothing to hide. I'm happy to answer his questions. I'm happy to talk with him about it publicly. I'm happy for him. I never tried to stop you from doing your interview. I'm like, go right ahead, but here's the information. Do with it as you need. I'm not, he talks about a cancel culture, but who's actually canceling who? Is he canceling you because you want to hear the other side of the story? He would be happy if you just followed Nesbo. He would be happy if you just follow, his narrative.
Yeah. Nesbo is asking, it's a good question actually, how do you feel about Lloyd using JW-based sexual repression as a reason for his years of cheating and use of sex workers?
Interesting. Thanks, Nesbo, putting that. Actually, I learned a lot about sexual repression. So just very briefly, I'm not a born-in. I joined the organisation when I was 20-ish, but I started, learning about the religion when I was about 13, 14. So I wasn't born in. So I don't have the traditional background that a lot of born-ins, and Lloyd is a born-in, and I think Nesbo is a born-in. So I had to learn a lot about this sexual repression. And I do have an understanding, and I'm very grateful for the people who shared their experiences with me to learn. The issue that I have is that Lloyd made a claim that he in his book, he talks about a news shit that happened in 2007 when he was he was caught cyber talking to other women, that he'd been, he was married, and he talks about even before he got married, he talks about the whole way along. So he talks about this sexual repression and how, that is responsible for his behaviors. But my question is, simply because you have bipolar disorder doesn't mean that you can go into a court and say, Your Honor, I was driving drunk because I have bipolar disorder. I'm sorry. And I really struggle with his reasoning that all of these years and still, it's responsible. It's at one point I'm like, well, you knew about this 14 years ago. This was your reason 14 years ago. Perhaps you need to get off internet and go and get some therapy and or do something, because what you're doing isn't working. And I just don't think you can continue to use it as an excuse for bad behavior. Having said that, there are many, many, many women and men that I know in the XJW community who speak about sexual repression, who do have mastery over themselves and who do not cheat on their partners or go and visit, it's just not. It just doesn't make sense.
It's also not, as you say, it's not like you can't say, well, you were an alcoholic. It doesn't matter that you ran over loads of people in your car. It's sad. It is sad. And to be balanced, because I've been having a go a bit, I think, and I want, he had, like a lot of you, he had a very difficult childhood, of course. He's had a very difficult life, and that we do have to bear that. At the same time, a lot of people who've done terrible things have also had terrible childhoods, and we don't often cut them that slack. And I'm wary of even saying the names of people I'm thinking of who had very difficult childhoods, because I wouldn't want it to seem like I'm linking Lloyd to those people. But
and I do have great empathy. I do actually have great empathy for him, and that, like, in terms of an XJW childhood being raised, again, not me, but I have plenty of friends and close friends who are those people. And I do know of the issues. And I know I raised a child in the organisation, and I deal with her issues. So I have an understanding, and I have empathy for Lloyd. At some point, you have to take responsibility for your behaviour and say, yes, I've done the wrong thing, or yes, I understand, and accept the consequences. I don't think it's okay to bully and bluster your way through to get what you want. I think, if he had taken responsibility, genuinely taken responsibility, I think the community would have accepted it very differently. And okay, he stuffed up.
There's a question in the comments that I want to ask you about, but I don't know if this happened or not. It's from Fateful Slave. And it was about, it's about the man in question. Did he say that he dated in Thailand? Do you know the rest of this? Because if he didn't say it, I don't. I don't want to bring
say it in your interview. he said in your interview that he dated a sex worker.
I think that went over my head, you know.
Oh no, he did say it. I agree. He did
Okay.
say that he dated a sex worker while he was in Thailand. He said that in your interview. That's the first time I have heard that I had a date with a sex worker. He never told me that. And I've never heard him say it previously to this interview. So,
because then when I later said about, you know, what about, that must have gone over my head for a second. Obviously, I'm doing a million things when I'm talking to him. Sometimes I will miss bits. And then later I said to him, you know, and he said, oh no, the sex workers was only in Croatia.
Yes, because in Lloyd's mind, I shouldn't speak to Lloyd's mind. The way I perceived it, my perception of that was he's compartmentalizing, because he did, in a statement subsequent to his live stream, he did suggest that he had engaged sex workers in Thailand. So he can't completely backtrack and say, no, that didn't happen. Because I never alleged that he had seen sex workers in Thailand. That's not an allegation that I ever made. He said it in one of his statements. And so it's my opinion, he can't backtrack on that, because then people will call him out for it. But he wants to distance himself from having been engaged in sexual activity in Thailand. And so he has now, in my opinion, compartmentalized, I dated a sex worker, but I only engaged in sexual activities with sex workers in Croatia. I think he's trying to separate the two.
God, it's so mad. I'll just say thank you to Sister Sophistry. Again, very, very generous and very nice of you. I didn't expect any of that, honestly. With oh God, I can't even say a phrase now without coughing everywhere. With regards to, I mean, that question I asked him, you know, why did you tell Kim, and it's Bob, isn't it? Was it Bob?
Producer Bob,
why? Yeah, producer Bob. Why did you come out with all this? And he was like, I wish I hadn't. And it's so sad for his family. I mean, everyone's different with how much we broadcast to the world, and it is difficult. Sometimes in my own relationship, I have to think about that, because I'm more open about myself, and I will say things not just on YouTube, but with friends, that I realise my partner doesn't like so much, and that's fair enough. Everyone has a different tolerance to how much they want their private life out in public, and you've got to respect that. I have seen videos where she's been on his channel, and she doesn't. That's just in my opinion. She doesn't look entirely comfortable there. And then to have this that happened to her and then broadcast to the whole world, do you think, did she want that broadcast to the world?
I don't know. What I will say is that what I will say is that,
yeah, it's a bad question really, because we're
that's really not. It's okay. What I will say is that after I had made the disclosure, Deanna and I continued conversations that were not, you know, all guns blazing at all. So I can't say whether she would want me to have done it, but we did continue on a conversation after that for a period of time. So I don't know.
It's just a mad thing. And that Jackie J is asking again, you know, I just asked that as well. Why did he tell you? We don't know. Maybe to get something off his chest. Again, it's interesting to me as writing this book about secrets and why we reveal them and stuff like that. Maybe it was playing on his mind, and he wanted you guys to go, oh, it's not so bad.
I don't know. Because he didn't come out and say, I've been unfaithful and I've been having relationships with sex workers. He said it as if we knew. The way he said it was very strange. And he was referring to a conversation he was having with Diana. And then he said, you know, that I've been having sex with sex workers. And I'm like, you know, as if I was like, yeah, I know. But what? Like, oh my God. Yeah, it was, I don't know. It was really strange. I don't know.
So bizarre to get that out there. It is bizarre, and it's a pattern of behaviour that is, you know, I won't judge and I won't say things, but it is all a bit odd. Don Ray J, Andrew, have you seen? I have seen the live stream. I watched, but the thing is, this was before I knew about all of the sort of, and as I was saying before, it's. I know that this is big for you guys, and it is for me as well. I'm not downplaying it, but the big thing for me was to realize how many people have complained about bullying behavior from him, because that was a side I hadn't, because I'm an outsider. What do I see? And I've got a few ex-Jehovah's who always come to my channel, and I love them, and they never said anything at that point. So that was the real shock for me, because you always hear about like, you know, these affairs that a lot of men, some men can't control, but this was like, oh. So I did watch some of that, but it was before I knew all this stuff, and it actually made me feel sad, because I thought, oh, this is my friend. He's, you know, he's supporting me on Patreon. He's been very kind to me, and he's talking about a private matter. So I watched 5-10 minutes. The microphone wasn't working. It was awkward. It was a bit embarrassing. And if you're watching your friend or your family member or someone like that, you go, oh God, I don't want to watch this. So I just switched it off. But I'm sure there is a lot of damning stuff in there. And I think, you know, people have been filling me in on a lot of it. So.
And you know, that was this whole sort of analyzing the whole picture, not just the, you know, the public disclosure interests, but you know, like how did we get here? How, you know, this whole, like, you know, where are all the other activists? Why is there such a you know, a massive chunk of the audience being, you know, consumed by one person, and you know, and where did everybody go, and what's happened, and why? And that's when all of this started to come out, and I was like, this is not okay. And it's not okay. You know, Lloyd has bullied people. And I think that probably because your subject is about bullying, I think that's probably what's upset people more, is you've given the bully a platform. And I'm sure they will forgive you for it. But I hope they do.
And I understand that as well. It's so difficult as a journalist, because there's so many different parts to this. But like, you know, when you're a journalist, I've had some, like I say, really unsavory, beyond Lloyd level. I know that it might seem impossible at this moment, but I'm talking about, you know, child sex abusers who are open about it. I've had people like that on, and it's just such a hard thing to get someone, hey, do you want to come on my show? And they, oh yeah, here's the link. Oh yeah, you're going to be on time. Okay, make sure you've got your headphones and all that. You're going to send me your audio after. Yeah, lovely. And then you go, what have you done? What have you done? You know, I find that very hard. Some journalists can do it, but then I always wonder about those kinds of journalists, because they end up, and what you've told me about Lloyd is a perfect example of somebody who was in charge, and he was very happy to point the finger at people all the time. And what was he hiding and all that thing? Was a lot. I think most of us, I don't think I'm alone in that. Most of us find it very difficult to look someone in the eye and confront them and say, you bad person. And then I have a duty of care. That's what I always learned at the BBC. So when we put out this thing about The Exorcist, we had to say, like, okay, is he going to kill himself afterwards? Is he going to kill someone else? Is he going to be a danger to another person? Is one of the people who are exorcised going to be bad? I had to fly back out to Argentina and go and speak. I couldn't speak to him because it'd have killed me, but I had to speak to each of the women who were involved and double check 2 years later. They were different women by this point, because they were, you know, 16, 17. When I went out, they were in their early 20s. And it was like, what if they say no? Then the whole documentary's gone. But that's that duty of care thing, and it's very natural to me. So I initially, you know, I finished the interview. I said to my editor and, you know, partner, you know, what do you think of this? And I put a thumbnail together, and I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was more sensationalist, and it was like, I'm not sorry, or something like that. And after a few days, I thought, I've got to show Lloyd. I can't. That thing inside me just went, I've got to show him. It's not right to put it out. And it's suddenly like, he thinks it's all nice, and then it's like, ha, gotcha. Like Sacha Baron Cohen might do, you know, ha, got you for this bad thing. So, and also I wasn't as convinced of all the stuff I've heard today. So I was still like, oh, that's not right. So I showed him, and he was like, yeah, can you take that out? I wanted it to be about bullying, and that's why I came on the show. And I felt really bad. So I changed it to that. But then, of course, I got the wrath of a lot of people today. So that's the reason. And the Gobbler's just asked a question. Andrew, give us your opinion on all this. I think that was it. That's the opinion. It's something that from the outside didn't seem so bad at first. And look, my real opinion is what I was saying before. I think it's really, having looked into cults a lot, I think it's good when you come out of a cult straight away to have this kind of community. But the last thing you want to do is fall into another cult. And it looks like that is what happened. And look, we all have cults. we all have different kinds. And I really like that Amanda Montell thing of like, it's not just Jehovah's Witness, it's not just Hasidic Jews, it's like fitness programs and stuff like that. And I also really like what she said about like, it doesn't mean you have to stop having these sort of culty things, these communities. You don't have to stop. You can have as many as you want. And it's if you have many and spread them out. I really like that idea. So my opinion on all of this is like a guy who's a very complicated guy with a very difficult upbringing, like many of you did, a bad thing, and he won't apologize for it, and he's attacking, and we don't know if that's because somebody might be sociopathic, or we don't know if it might be they're just very defensive and sad inside. So I don't want to guess as to why he's behaving the way he does. I think he should probably have apologized. He's lashed out at me, he's lashed out at a lot of people. But the main thing is with all the guys, I've seen how upset everyone is, and I understand it. And I think going forward, it would be nice for people to go like, okay, I'm going to start a new group that maybe isn't related to JW, or maybe another one that is, and like one that is, and one that is, I'm going to play football more often. I'm going to go, that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Or one that is, but not so centric, focused on, what's going on in the organization. Like, let's focus on what's going on outside the organization as a community. I think that there's definitely a scope to refocus our choices and what we can do, and broaden out a little bit. And there's so much going on. Like, there's so much things that we can be doing inside and outside of the XJW community. Go out and live, and then come back and share what you've been doing. Go out and live and go to uni, do whatever you want to do, and come back and tell us about it, and so that you can inspire somebody else to do the same thing. There's so much that can be done. I just think we need to divert some of the attention away from one aspect of that is what's going on in the organization.
It's the one thing, and this is going to sound flippant, but like if I think of the cultiest aspect of my own life, it's probably soccer football. As you know, I support Tottenham Football Club, and it is a culty thing because when I was a baby, my dad would say to me, "This is a Tottenham shirt, yes, good, and this is an Arsenal shirt, bad, boo," like that. And I have a visceral reaction to Arsenal shirts. If somebody put one on me, I would feel a bit sick. I might even tremble. And I know how silly that is. But because I've spread out though, and I think I have several culty things like that. I'm quite culty about my music. I'm quite culty about languages. I got really obsessed with that, and that. So when the football's going badly one week, or they've messed everything up, I go, all right, don't think about that for a month, and I'm just going to do my other things. And that's what's really important. I think that's what you're saying as well. It's like, get into, if you want all the JW content on YouTube, there are plenty of channels, and I think you can watch all of them and be part of a bigger community. It's when there's one person at the top that's worrying. And I always thought that. I didn't say that, but I always thought that watching Lloyd. I always thought this is, it's people leaving a cult to then go and follow a one-man band. I'm wary of that myself as a YouTuber, but I think it's a lot easier for people to leave me, just unsubscribe and they're gone.
Yeah, well, and that's true. You can just unsubscribe, but you also don't care if I go and watch Sean Atwood's channel.
No, I insist you do. I insist.
Yeah, I love some of his content. It's really good. Something that I'm not keen on, and I don't watch it, but that's the joy, and that's the beauty of check it out and look at different things. So I just am a massive fan of his work, and I have a lot of respect for his work. So I don't know the man, but and that's the thing. Like, you're not going to get upset, whereas you're not going to go around and denigrate another person giving an opinion about something. There's a whole law tube going on where ex-lawyers and district attorneys in America are giving comment about pop culture, and there's all these different channels, but they all, well, I'm not covering that, but so and so is, go and check them out. They're always like, there's no competition. It's all about getting the information out, and there's plenty of room in the pond for all the little fishies to swim. We don't have to have one person in the pond telling everybody what to think. Yeah.
No, that's it. And I hope that brings some solace to people, because Sister Sophistry says focus on recovery. Absolutely. It's been a real eye-opener to watch up close. As I said, there's a few people in particular who are always on my channel. They've been there for years. And just to see how emotional they found it, and how when I told them I was going to be interviewing Lloyd for the last few weeks, they've been saying, when's that out, and it's really affecting their days and stuff like that. And I get it. And leaving a cult again, because I haven't really been in one, except for, the Jewish stuff when I was younger. I had to break away from that, and that was I had to go every Sunday. I had to go to this thing and learn all the Hebrew stuff, and I hated it. And it was really difficult to tell my parents, to tell the people there, I don't want any part of this, and it's nowhere near the same level. But what somebody said to me recently, if you don't know about cults, if you've not been part of either a cult or religion community like that, try and imagine not being able to leave a toxic relationship with a girlfriend or boyfriend. And that's much easier for people outside of cults to imagine, when they're not happy with someone, but they're like, oh, but I can't leave. And that's what you've got times 1,000, because it's not just Lloyd that people are saying goodbye to. It's the community, it's the live chat. As somebody said before, he was getting $3,000 or something, £3,000 a live stream or something mad like that.
Yeah, I think it was $3,000 to be fair.
Well, it's still a lot. I mean, that's like what's it called? The prosperity gospel.
Yeah, it is, and like a lot of these people, unfortunately, there are a lot of child sexual assault survivors, victims, whichever they identify with. Who are in the community, or they are friends with someone, or their best friend, or their sister, or their brother, or it's an epidemic. Honestly, I'm not even exaggerating. It is an epidemic. And so people are very affected. And if you trust somebody to advocate for you, and a lot of people do, when they hear, and then they hear you're not taking responsibility, it's not Lloyd's fault, but they have their own issues, and they then are triggered. And they then, associate Lloyd with the elders in the congregation who didn't protect them, the elders in the congregation who then told them not to go and report it to the police, the elders that lied to the police when they came and they refused to take responsibility. And, and Lloyd's just completely missing the whole scope of it. And I really struggle. I'm like, how can you advocate for CSA victims when you don't understand why they're behaving and why they've got a problem? And I think that there was a lot of fear that, like, you were going to give him the platform, because that's what happens. Watchtower can cover everything up, and then they've got their own platform, and the governing body will come out and go, we abhor child abuse, and we do everything right. And then, the victims are going, no, you don't, and so, he's come out and said, I'm being bullied. And they're like, are you kidding? So that's probably some of the reaction. It's not personal, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
It's very difficult, and it's like what you said about Sean, like some of the stuff you might not like. And there are people, and between me and you and everyone on the stream, there's one or two people that I have said to the producer, I'm not going to be interviewing that person, and I won't be on the screen with them. Whereas Sean is one of the most beautiful souls, I think, that I just love that
mad
guy.
Laugh.
And he's totally nuts, and he's exactly the same off screen. He's exactly the same. He's got one level, and he's fantastic. And he sends me photos now. We've only been working together 6 months or so now, and he sends me like mad photos in the week. He's nuts, and he's great. And he's just like, I'll interview you, I'll have the chat, whoever it is, and there's no judging, and that's very liberating. And I'm a little bit like that as well. And that's how this came about with Lloyd. It's just very difficult for me to like judge. I think I'd rather just not do the interview, that's what I've done in the past. So that's why it was so difficult. And I understand there was a reaction from people. Most people were understanding. It was just a few people were just like, what you doing given a platform? And that's when I say like my usual line, which is like, I've interviewed pedophiles and whatever's, so this is not the worst. Thank you.
But for them, it's a learning opportunity as well to regulate their emotions and hear, rather than just react, to hear what Lloyd has to say. Give the man a chance to speak, and then you can decide, rather than just go, oh, how dare he have a platform. It's a great opportunity to learn.
I've always thought that, and I've always said, and I think I do have, I'm very fortunate in this sense. I've got a particularly intelligent and open-minded set of listeners. It's mostly listeners on the audio. I wonder what they're all thinking, because we're getting all the YouTube reaction. I don't get much. It's very different. It's almost like a bit like, those are the guys who read the Telegraph or whatever, whereas on YouTube we're all like more tabloids or something. And those podcasty people, they do get in touch sometimes, but the vast majority don't. They just sit and listen. They're on the train somewhere and they're going, who's this Lloyd Evans bloke? They don't have a clue about anything. So I am interested in what what they all thought.
Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah.
thank you very much. In Australia, that would be Australian dollars. Thank you so much. Illegal for employers to talk about personal information to their workers. Conflict of interest. By the way, love me lots of cults. May I suggest the SCP community? What's that? Scientology? Don't know.
SCP community. I don't know. I think it's
SCP.
American dollars, by the way, because Australian is
Oh,
AUD. I think he's American. I've seen that name. Is it?
that's
I
interesting.
sent it. Yeah, I don't know what if I ever to work with about person. Yeah. Oh, must be maybe. Yeah, I don't know what.
Austrian dollars, maybe, or
Oh
something.
no,
I don't
I
know.
think he's American. Yeah.
Okay, well, fair enough. America, lovely. I would have thought that would be you, but maybe that's like Ugandan dollars or something. So, what was it like
No.
working with Lloyd? Did you, over the years, were you was it nice? I mean, I don't mean I don't want it to have to be like, yeah, now we're going to go in for the kill. Maybe it was nice. What was it like?
It was nice. I enjoyed it. I miss it. I'm not going to
Mm.
lie. I miss working with him. I'm going to cry. This makes me really upset. I believe
Oh.
in. So I have a unique set of skills that, like, there are others, but not that many. Where you know, I realize how people don't understand how to find information. They don't realize that they can get access to court cases. They can read legislation. They can contact politicians. They can do all of these things from in the legal aspect, and they can gain knowledge for themselves, which I just find so important. And so being able to share that information, not teach people, but guide people on where they can find information. I'm just absolutely passionate and fascinated about it. And to be able to share that and explain things so that you
Mm.
take away the fear, because people, when you have knowledge, you remove fear. And I love being able to do that. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's horrible. I loved it. I loved being able to share information. And I loved, working with people in the background. I'd get contacted about, child custody cases and all sorts of bits and pieces. And obviously the Australian Redress Scheme and the victims lodging applications with that. And to be able to just give back something for me is fantastic. I love that. Being able to share information with other YouTubers I love it.
Yeah.
And to be able to answer their questions because they're doing their own podcast and they want to get the information right. So being able to answer their questions is great as well. So working with Lloyd from that point of view for me personally was really satisfying. I loved being able to do that. Lloyd can be very difficult, and he and I always butted heads. And I was actually speaking to a friend of mine 12 hours ago who had worked with Lloyd previously, and I said to her, but I never fell out with him when I was working with him, and she pointed out to me that we always used to talk about work stuff, professional stuff, as in JW Watch stuff, activism
Mm.
stuff, the governing body. We didn't have a like a personal relationship level where, I'd do something and Lloyd, you hurt my feelings. We didn't have that type of relation. We had a really professional relationship. So on a professional level, my interactions with Lloyd and my time with Lloyd was fantastic.
Mm.
I loved it. We used to fight about all sorts of things. And I'm deist, he's atheist. So, it was always, I have nothing bad to say in respect of, he's
Mm.
very stubborn and very hard headed,
Yeah.
tested order for all of the Italians watching. But he is, but I can't say, I didn't agree with everything he did, but it's his channel. So I always respected
Yeah.
that.
One place he did fall out with Stephen Knight, who's the godless spell checker. He's got a podcast. He's a friend of Ricky Gervais, and he's been on my podcast a couple of times. He's a very funny guy. He's atheist himself, and he's very centrist. He'll be in the center of every ideology, and that's his thing. His thing is like whatever. It's like, well, I'm in the middle kind of thing, and he considered Lloyd to be quite woke, like progressive, like that kind of thing. And again, so firstly, the thing with among some woke people, there's been studies done that they are more likely to hold the dark triad traits, which is psychopathy, narcissism, and I can't remember what the other one is. Often it's a front, it's like a hiding in plain sight kind of thing. But one of the, and by the way, this isn't me having a go at everyone's allowed their views and stuff like that. But one thing that I found difficult in the interview I had with Lloyd, and what I came away from, because I wasn't thinking about a lot of the stuff that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are thinking about. I was thinking about just the guy I've just spoken to, because his ideology aligned with some of the aspects or the tenets of woke culture. He was somebody who didn't believe in cancel culture. And he found himself in a very difficult position where he was having to say to me that he had been cancelled, but he didn't want to use the word because he knew that he had said to me, cancel culture doesn't exist. So I was like, so what's happened to you? Because he would say, you know, a lot of people like that, they say it's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture, which I don't believe in. I think people are cancelled for things when they didn't do anything wrong. I think there are plenty of examples of that. And some people do deserve it. You know, it's very complicated.
Yeah, it is
But that
very.
was something
The consequence culture, when I heard that, I was like, well, that's life. You know, there are consequences for our actions. And, you know, I don't know, like going right, controversial. Pierce, what's his name? The guy from the
There's
Today
Morgan.
program in the UK.
Yeah, Morgan.
Morgan, you know, like there, that is so, you know, whether or not he did the wrong thing is so controversial, but the powers that be saw that there was, you know, that there was responsibility and the consequences he can't avoid. I'm not going to comment about whether or not I agree with it, but that's a fact, you know. I don't understand why it's you know, there's consequences in life, fair, unfair, otherwise, but it's not, you know, it's still, you can't control it. And I think one of the really big things that the community arced up about was he came straight out and said, if you support Kim Silvio, words to the effect that if you support Kim Silvio or you're, you know, making comments that are positive towards her, I'm going to block you. Well, if that's not cancel culture, then I don't know what is.
That is bad. So if he said that, that's the kind of thing where he was trying to say to me that you were bullying him and stuff. Well, that is bullying. So that's not on. I've got
I've
the
never
Gobbler
called
asking.
him a horrible name.
Yeah, well, good. And we shouldn't. And I'm happy we have it. How do you feel about Lloyd not giving you the full picture? Well, I don't take that personally. He's trying to, you know, he's defending himself and he's trying to put out the side that, you know, it's not like he wanted to lie to me particularly, or that I don't get the impression he feels like he's misleading people. I think that's just my impression. What do you think, Kim? I feel like he very much convinces himself.
Yeah. I think that it's whether it's some sort of behavioral issue or I'm not a professional, I don't know, but there's certainly a habit, and whatever's creating the habit, I don't know, a habit of not taking responsibility, for
So my
blaming
camera's
others.
broken. I'm just fixing it. Hang on, but you continue talking.
It's all right. I'm used to dealing with dodgy people on live streams. Sorry. Yeah, it's definitely a habit that he has formed into, where he will attack, he will blame, he will point fingers at everybody else, he'll distract, he'll change the subject, he'll, you know, threaten people. So I don't necessarily think that I'm going to go on Andrew's channel and I'm going to say this. I think it's genuinely a habit in his head.
He just thought it would work out well for him. As he was talking, I thought this isn't working out for him. And a couple other people I knew watched it, and they were going, yeah, he doesn't come across great here. And I think he thought he did. And I wasn't. I was trying so hard to be neutral, and I said, is that okay? And he was like, yeah, that's okay. And I think it was a bit awkward. He knew I'd pushed him maybe harder than he thought I would. I just realized we didn't actually answer Bro's question, and he's saying, why haven't you answered my question? Is it illegal for employers to talk about personal information to their workers? I don't know.
Well, yes, it can be, depending on the content of what they've said, but it is certainly a conflict of interest at minimum. The thing is that Lloyd and I were not an employee-employer situation. I was never a paid employee. I don't have a contract. We collaborated together. So in the sense that of what has happened, he has not broken the law.
Yeah, okay, well, there you go. I think that would be a harsh law, like you can't discuss personal, you know, you don't want to be harassing people, but have you figured out, Kim, how to move to work with others? That's from JM.
Jason Wynn, shout out. I don't know Jason personally, but obviously I know who he is. I think we've done a couple of live streams together, actually, on the Lloyd Evans channel. He has a site that he is involved with, avoidjw.org. Amazing. If you're ever looking for old doctrine or information about the Jehovah's Witness organization, check it out. It's really, really good. Although it's down at the moment. Complaint, Larchwood, just saying. No, when I first told the community and made a disclosure, and I spoke to Capitan in an interview about moving forward, I felt the responsible thing for me to do was walk away, to demonstrate my genuine state that I didn't do this for notoriety or to make myself big or to anybody that knows me, and there's enough people that know me, I don't give two shits about that stuff, excuse me, but I don't care about those things. And so I just had no thought about it, about doing other work or anything like that, because I just didn't want people to see it as me trying to push Lloyd out of the way, because I could easily see that, but that's not my motivation. And I think now, this is, weeks and weeks later, I think people can see that. But I don't know about if I do anything in the future. I don't know. I have been asked a few things, but at the moment, I am just happy playing in my garden.
Yeah, well, gardens are good, and I think did you ever go on live? Did anybody else ever go on live on Lloyd's channel, or was it just him?
No, me, heaps of times. Mark O'Donnell, me, Jason Wynn did a couple, Covert Fade, and others, and the ICSA panels, plenty of people.
Oh, right, yeah, of course. In fact,
Javier
I forgot. I was on his channel. Forgot about that. We talked about it was like a new magazine that had come out from the JWs, and we looked at that. Marty Seeks Da Truth says, can Lloyd carry on after this, Kim?
Lloyd can do whatever he wants. It's my opinion. I don't know. That's not for me to decide. What I can say is, from my perspective, I don't really care whether he does or doesn't. I think that he's not the be all and end all, that if he does stay, people can join his content. If he doesn't, then people find other people. I hope people find other people to listen to instead of and as well as Lloyd. But I also think that it certainly would be a consideration that every person, if he was to be involved with something like ICSA again, or media, like in a representative position within the community, I definitely don't think that he should be part of that.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I just got the gobblers trying to get me to give my opinion that Lloyd has not revealed all the facts to you on the issue. Yeah, well, that's definitely true, but nor does he have to an extent. He can say what he wants to me. Everybody I talk to is perfectly entitled to say no comment, or to to withhold things. We do it that's part of language. We do it in every conversation we have with everyone. We choose what we disclose and what we don't, particularly when we're being filmed.
I suspect I know who the gobbler is. I don't know, but I think I do. And if I am correct, that person has been extremely, A, is one of the 12, and B, has been extremely unfairly treated by him. So I suspect there's a bit of emotion behind his questions. And rightly so. I think he's got every right to feel the way he does.
Absolutely. I feel less personal because I've only spoken to Lloyd 2 or 3 times in my life, so it doesn't bother me as much. But I totally understand why it would someone else. I don't know what this was even in reference to, but I wanted to just put Marianne's name on there because she's been supporting and watching me for a very, very long time and always saying such nice things and everything. So thank you for that. I get loads of Lindanet as well. She's loving it. So just shout outs to you. Shout outs to all of you. Thank you so much. I think we're all good for now, aren't we? Are we good?
I'm good.
I think we're good. People probably already do, but they should follow you on Twitter. Is that where they should get you or follow you or something?
If they want, they can follow me on Twitter. But I have put out a couple of videos, and I'm not doing any more. It was just to improve my skills. So you can check out my YouTube channel too.
Check out Kim's YouTube channel.
Not a YouTuber. It's rubbish.
Not a YouTuber. No, I've seen it. It looks great. Jane, I can't remember what you're laughing about here, but thank you again for being so lovely and generous. Gobbler, again, I haven't read this yet. Lloyd can have any support he wants, but as long as they understand they may be supporting sex workers. Well, I guess that's the point. And, fair enough. We're good, says Nesbo. Guys, if you stick around on my channel on, I think it's Monday, I put out new clips nearly every day from old episodes, but on Monday we've got a woman called Francesca Spector coming on to talk about being happier alone. So it might be relevant, actually, how she calls it alonement and how to be happy with yourself on your own. She's fascinating.
I'll definitely be watching that. Love it.
Please do. And people, if you want to come in, I'll do another premiere. So it's at 9 p.m. UK time. Come and chat with us all or watch it afterwards or whatever. Thank you all, ex-JWs, for taking me in as one of your own. I'm taking you in as one of my own. You've been on the edge and I love you all. Kim as well. Thank you so much, Kim. You were really fantastic there, and have a lovely day.
You have a good night.
Cheers, guys. But yeah,
Bye.
thank you. Oh, how do I do it? Oh, yeah.